Therapy dog Bella had been specially trained to help child witnesses in courtrooms, but she had never behaved like this while working with little Emma. When the girls silently pointed at something, Bella's entire body tensed with alarm. The dog's eyes locked onto a specific person in the courtroom gallery, her protective instincts screaming danger. What had Emma seen that day 3 months ago? And why was Bella reacting with such intense fear and aggression towards someone in that room? 5-year-old Emma Williams stood frozen outside the imposing oak doors of courtroom 3B, her tiny hand gripping her mother's fingers with desperate strength. The little girl's bright blue eyes, once full of wonder and laughter, now held shadows far too dark for someone so young. For 3 months, ever since that terrible day at the neighbor's house, Emma hadn't spoken a single word. Sarah Williams knelt down to her daughter's eye level, her heart breaking as she saw the fear etched across Emma's angelic face. "Everything's going to be okay, sweetheart," she whispered, though her own voice trembled with uncertainty. "Remember what Dr. Reynolds told us? You don't have to say anything you don't want to. Just being brave enough to be here is enough." Emma's response was the same as always, complete, heartbreaking silence. She simply stared at the courthouse doors as if they were the gates to some terrifying underworld. That's when they heard the gentle click of paws against the marble floor. Down the hallway approached Golden Retriever Bella, moving with the calm, purposeful gait that marked her as no ordinary dog. Her golden coat gleamed under the fluorescent lights, and her intelligent brown eyes immediately focused on Emma with an almost human understanding. "Emma, I'd like you to meet someone very special," said Lisa Martinez, Bella's trainer and handler. Lisa was a woman in her 40s whose gentle demeanor and patient smile had helped dozens of traumatized children find their voices again. "This is Bella. She's what we call a facility therapy dog, specially trained to help children who have been through difficult experiences." Emma looked down at Bella, and for the first time in months, something flickered in her eyes. It wasn't quite hope, but it was the absence of fear. Bella seemed to sense this infinitesimal shift and slowly, carefully, approached the little girl. The dog sat precisely 18 inches away, close enough to offer comfort, far enough to avoid overwhelming her. "Bella has helped many children tell their stories," Lisa continued softly. "She knows how scary it can feel to talk about things that hurt us. But she also knows that sometimes, when we keep painful secrets inside, they hurt us even more." Emma tentatively extended one small finger toward Bella's head. The dog remained perfectly still, allowing the child to make the first contact. When Emma's finger touched the soft fur between Bella's ears, both Sarah and Lisa held their breath. It was the first voluntary interaction Emma had initiated with anyone or anything since the incident. Inside the courthouse's family conference room, Lisa worked patiently to establish a connection between Emma and Bella. The room had been specially designed for situations like this: soft lighting, comfortable furniture, and colors chosen specifically to reduce anxiety. Toys and books were scattered around, though Emma showed no interest in them. "Bella has a very important job, Emma," Lisa explained as the therapy dog positioned herself beside the little girl on a child-sized sofa. "Her job is to help children feel safe when they need to talk about difficult things. She's helped kids who have been scared, hurt, or confused. And she's very good at her job." Emma remained silent, but her small hand rested on Bella's back, rising and falling with the dog's steady breathing. For a child who had been trapped in traumatic silence, this physical connection represented enormous progress. Sarah watched from across the room, tears threatening to spill down her cheeks. Her vibrant, chatty little girl, the child who once narrated every moment of her day, who asked endless questions about everything from why the sky was blue to how many stars were in the universe, had been stolen from her by whatever had happened that day at Mr. Johnson's house. The incident had occurred on a seemingly ordinary Tuesday afternoon. Emma had been playing in the Johnsons' backyard while Sarah attended a brief neighborhood association meeting next door. Mr. Johnson, their longtime neighbor and a respected member of the community, had volunteered to watch Emma for the hour-long meeting. When Sarah returned, she found Emma hiding in the garden shed, silent and trembling. Since that day, Emma had been evaluated by pediatric psychologists, trauma specialists, and child psychiatrists. All reached the same conclusion: Emma had witnessed or experienced something so traumatic that her mind had essentially shut down her ability to communicate as a protective mechanism. Sometimes, Lisa continued, watching Emma's hand move in slow, soothing strokes along Bella's fur, children see things that are too big or scary for words. Bella understands this. She doesn't need words to know when someone is hurting. As if on cue, Bella shifted slightly, pressing her warm side more firmly against Emma's leg. The child's breathing, which had been shallow and rapid since entering the courthouse, began to slow and deepen. District Attorney Michelle Rodriguez had prosecuted dozens of cases involving child witnesses, but Emma's case presented unique challenges. Without the child's testimony, the evidence against Thomas Johnson remained largely circumstantial. Neighbors had reported seeing him behaving inappropriately around other children, and there were suspicious purchases on his credit card, but without Emma's account of what she had witnessed, the case might not proceed. "We need to be extremely careful," DA Rodriguez explained to Lisa and Sarah in her office the day before the hearing. "Emma's welfare is our absolute priority. If at any point she becomes too distressed, we stop immediately. But if she can tell us what she saw, we might be able to protect other children from experiencing what Emma went through." Lisa nodded gravely. "Bella and I have worked with children in similar situations. The key is creating an environment where Emma feels completely safe and in control. Bella is trained to detect signs of distress before they become overwhelming. If Emma needs a break, Bella will let us know." The plan was carefully structured. Emma would enter the courtroom with Bella at her side. Lisa would remain close by but allow the dog to provide the primary emotional support. If Emma felt ready to speak, Judge Jennifer Walsh would ask only the most essential questions, keeping the session as brief as possible. That evening, Sarah knelt beside Emma's bed for their nightly ritual. Even though Emma didn't respond verbally, Sarah continued their bedtime routine of reading stories and singing lullabies, hoping that maintaining these normal patterns might eventually help her daughter find her way back to speech. "Tomorrow's going to be a big day, baby," Sarah whispered, stroking Emma's silky blonde hair. "But remember, Bella will be right there with you. And Mommy will be there too. You're the bravest little girl in the whole world, and no matter what happens tomorrow, I'm so proud of you." Emma's only response was to clutch her stuffed rabbit closer to her chest, but Sarah thought she detected the faintest nod. The morning of the hearing arrived gray and drizzling, as if the weather itself reflected the somber nature of the day ahead. Emma wore her favorite dress, a soft blue one with tiny white flowers that Sarah had bought for her 5th birthday just 2 months before the incident. Back then, Emma had twirled around the house in that dress, chattering about how pretty she felt. Now, it hung on her smaller frame like a reminder of who she used to be. Bella met them at the courthouse entrance, her therapy dog vest clearly identifying her official role. The golden retriever seemed to sense the gravity of the situation. Her usual friendly demeanor was replaced by focused professionalism. She immediately positioned herself at Emma's left side, matching the child's slow, hesitant pace as they navigated the maze of courthouse corridors. Judge Walsh had cleared the courtroom of all unnecessary personnel and restricted media access. Only the essential legal team, court reporter, and a small gallery of witnesses remained. Even so, the formal courtroom felt enormous and intimidating to a 5-year-old girl. "Good morning, Emma," Judge Walsh said gently as the little girl entered with her mother and Bella. The judge, a grandmother herself, had specifically requested this case because of her experience with child witnesses. "I see you brought a friend with you today. Is this Bella?" Emma nodded almost imperceptibly, her hand buried deep in Bella's thick golden fur. "Bella is very welcome here," the judge continued. "This is her job, helping children feel safe when they need to tell important stories. You can sit wherever you feel most comfortable, and Bella can stay right with you the whole time." Lisa guided Emma to a small chair positioned to the judge's left, close enough for conversation but angled so Emma wouldn't be forced to look directly at the gallery where spectators sat. Bella immediately settled beside the chair, her warm body pressed against Emma's legs. For the first several minutes, Judge Walsh simply talked with Emma about neutral topics: her favorite color, purple, her stuffed rabbit's name, Mr. Hoppers, and whether she liked Bella's soft fur, a small nod. These gentle questions were designed to help Emma adjust to the courtroom environment and establish a basic pattern of communication. "Emma," Judge Walsh finally said, her voice remaining soft and non-threatening, "I know that something happened a few months ago that scared you very much. I want you to know that you're completely safe here. No one is going to hurt you, and you only need to tell us what you feel ready to share." Emma's grip on Bella's fur tightened, and the therapy dog immediately responded by shifting position to provide more physical comfort. Lisa watched carefully for signs of distress, but Emma seemed to be holding steady. "Can you tell me where you were when this scary thing happened?" the judge asked. Emma's eyes darted nervously around the courtroom. Her gaze swept across the prosecution table, where DA Rodriguez sat with her files, past the defense table, where a lawyer sat alone since his client had waived his right to be present during the child's testimony, and finally toward the gallery section where a handful of observers sat in the wooden pews. And then Emma saw him. Thomas Johnson sat in the third row of the gallery, dressed in a conservative suit and tie, looking for all the world like the respectable neighbor and community volunteer he had always appeared to be. He had every legal right to observe the proceedings, and his presence was not unexpected. But for Emma, seeing him again triggered an immediate and visceral response. Her breathing became rapid and shallow, her small body began to tremble, and her eyes widened with unmistakable terror. Bella sensed the change instantly. The therapy dog's ears snapped to attention, her body tensed, and her calm, professional demeanor shifted into something more primal, protective alertness. Her intelligent brown eyes followed Emma's gaze directly to Johnson in the gallery. "Emma?" Judge Walsh noticed the child's distress immediately. "Are you okay, sweetheart? Do you need to take a break?" But instead of answering verbally, Emma did something she hadn't done in 3 months. She lifted her small right hand and, with trembling fingers, pointed directly at Thomas Johnson. The courtroom fell silent. Every eye followed the trajectory of Emma's outstretched finger to the man in the gallery. Johnson shifted uncomfortably under the sudden scrutiny, his face flushing slightly. "Emma," the judge said carefully, "are you pointing at someone you recognize?" Emma nodded vigorously, her finger still extended toward Johnson. Then, in a gesture that made every adult in the room hold their breath, she leaned down toward Bella's ear as if she were going to whisper something to the dog. But Emma wasn't whispering. Instead, she was making small, deliberate gestures near Bella's ear, pointing, then touching the dog's head, then pointing again toward Johnson. It was as if she were trying to communicate something urgent to Bella, using a language only they understood. Bella's response was immediate and dramatic. The golden retriever's hackles rose slightly, her tail stiffened, and she positioned herself more squarely between Emma and the gallery section. The dog's eyes never left Johnson, and a low, almost inaudible growl rumbled in her throat. Lisa had never seen Bella react this way during a therapy session. The dog was trained specifically to remain calm and supportive regardless of the emotional intensity of the situation. This protective, almost aggressive response was completely outside her normal behavioral parameters. "Your Honor," DA Rodriguez interjected carefully, "I think the child is trying to identify someone connected to her experience." Defense attorney Mark Stevens immediately objected. "This is highly irregular. The child hasn't spoken, and we're now interpreting hand gestures and dog behavior as testimony." Judge Walsh raised her hand for silence. Her years of experience told her they were witnessing something significant, even if it didn't fit traditional courtroom procedures. "Emma," she said gently, "I can see that Bella is trying to protect you from something. Can you help us understand what's frightening you?" Emma's pointing became more insistent. She stood up from her chair, still keeping one hand on Bella's head, and used her other hand to point directly at Johnson. Her mouth moved as if she were trying to speak, but no sound emerged. Bella rose with Emma, her body language becoming increasingly agitated. The therapy dog's training warred with her protective instincts. She had been taught never to show aggression in a courtroom setting, but every fiber of her being was telling her that the man Emma was indicating posed a threat to the child. Johnson, sensing the mounting tension, began to look genuinely uncomfortable. He whispered something to the person beside him and started to rise from his seat as if to leave the courtroom. "Mr. Johnson," Judge Walsh said firmly, "please remain seated." The use of his name seemed to galvanize Emma. For the first time in 3 months, sound emerged from her throat, not words, but a high, keening whimper of fear and recognition. Bella had reached her limit. Despite months of intensive training that had taught her to remain calm and supportive in any situation, the combination of Emma's obvious terror and her own instinctive reading of Johnson's body language triggered an irresistible protective response. The golden retriever moved with surprising speed, placing herself directly between Emma and Johnson. Her normally gentle demeanor was replaced by the alert, protective stance of a guard dog. She didn't bark or snarl, but her message was unmistakable. She perceived Johnson as a threat to the child she was protecting. "Bella, stay," Lisa commanded, but even she could see that the dog was responding to something beyond normal training protocols. Emma, emboldened by Bella's protective stance, finally found her voice. The words came out in a rush, high-pitched and trembling but unmistakably clear. "That's the bad man. That's the man who hurt me." The courtroom erupted. Johnson shot to his feet, his face flushed with anger and panic. "This is ridiculous. That child is obviously traumatized and confused. And that dog is out of control." But Emma wasn't finished. 3 months of pent-up terror and trauma poured out in broken, childish sentences. He said bad things to me. He tried to touch me where he shouldn't. I ran away and hid, but he found me in the shed. He said if I told anyone, he would hurt Mommy." Sarah let out a sob from the gallery, finally understanding why her daughter had been so desperately silent. Emma hadn't just been traumatized, she had been threatened into silence to protect her mother. Security officers moved quickly to maintain order as Johnson's attorney tried to control the situation. But the damage was done. Emma had broken her silence, and her words painted a clear picture of what had happened that Tuesday afternoon. "He showed me pictures," Emma continued, her small voice growing stronger as Bella pressed against her legs. "Bad pictures on his phone. And he said we were going to play a game, but it wasn't a fun game. It was scary." Judge Walsh, despite her decades of courtroom experience, felt her heart breaking as she listened to Emma's testimony. The child's words, spoken with the brutal honesty that only children possess, were painting a horrific picture of attempted abuse. "Emma, you are being so incredibly brave," the judge said softly. "Bella knew you needed to tell us this, didn't she?" Emma nodded, wrapping her arms around Bella's neck. "Bella could tell he was the bad man. She wanted to protect me." DA Rodriguez was already signaling to court officers. The evidence Emma had just provided, combined with her identification of Johnson and the corroborating behavioral evidence from a trained therapy dog, would be enough to proceed with formal charges. Johnson made one last desperate attempt to discredit the testimony. "You can't seriously be accepting the word of a traumatized child and the behavior of a dog as evidence." But Judge Walsh had seen enough. "Mr. Johnson, you have the right to remain silent." The formal arrest of Thomas Johnson sent shockwaves through the quiet suburban neighborhood where Emma and her family lived. Other parents came forward with their own concerns about Johnson's behavior around children, and a pattern of predatory conduct emerged that validated everything Emma had courageously revealed. In the weeks following the hearing, Emma began the long process of healing. With Bella continuing to provide therapeutic support, she started speaking more regularly, though she still struggled with nightmares and anxiety. "Bella saved me," Emma told Dr. Reynolds during one of her therapy sessions. "She knew the bad man was there, and she helped me be brave enough to tell." The therapy dog had indeed performed far beyond her normal duties. While she had been trained to provide comfort and emotional support, her instinctive protective response and ability to sense Emma's specific fear had been instrumental in breaking the case open. Lisa marveled at the bond that had formed between Emma and Bella. It's like they developed their own communication system, she explained to Sarah. Emma was trying to tell Bella about the danger she perceived, and Bella responded by taking protective action. It's remarkable. 6 months after the hearing, Emma had made remarkable progress. She still worked with Bella twice a week in therapy sessions, but the sessions had evolved from trauma recovery to building confidence and communication skills. I want to help other kids like Bella helped me, Emma announced one day during a therapy session. At 5 years old, she couldn't fully understand the complexities of what she had experienced, but she had developed an intuitive understanding of how powerful the bond between a child and a therapy animal could be. Sarah watched her daughter playing with Bella in their backyard, marveling at the transformation. The silent, traumatized little girl had been replaced by someone who was still healing but who had found her voice again, literally and figuratively. Bella's not just a therapy dog, Sarah told Lisa during one of their regular check-ins. She's Emma's guardian angel. She gave Emma the courage to speak when she couldn't find the words on her own. The legal case against Johnson proceeded through the courts, with Emma's testimony, and the unique circumstances of how it was obtained, serving as a key component of the prosecution's case. The defense team attempted to challenge the admissibility of testimony obtained with the assistance of a therapy animal, but Judge Walsh ruled that Emma's statements were voluntary and credible regardless of the supportive presence that had helped her find the courage to speak. 2 years later, Emma Williams was a different child, still sweet and gentle, but no longer haunted by the trauma that had stolen her voice. She had developed a special interest in animal therapy and often asked her mother if they could visit other children who might need to meet Bella. "Can we go see the scared kids?" became Emma's regular request, and Sarah began bringing her daughter to victim advocacy events where Emma would share her story in simple, age-appropriate terms. Bella, now 8 years old, continued her work as a therapy dog but held a special place in her heart for Emma. Their bond transcended the typical therapy animal-client relationship. They had become true partners in healing. "Bella taught me that sometimes you don't need words to understand when someone needs help," Emma explained to a group of younger children during one of their visits to the children's hospital. "And she taught me that being scared doesn't mean you can't be brave." The golden retriever sat beside Emma as she spoke, her gentle presence a testament to the power of unconditional love and protection. Together, they had not only survived a terrible experience but had transformed it into a source of strength and hope for others. Thomas Johnson was convicted and sentenced to 15 years in prison. But more importantly, his conviction led to the identification of other victims and the implementation of new child protection protocols in their community. Emma's courage, facilitated by Bella's protective instincts and unwavering support, had not only brought her abuser to justice but had created a safer environment for countless other children. As Emma liked to tell people, "Bella didn't just help me find my voice. She helped me find my brave." And in the quiet moments when they sat together, girl and dog, it was clear that their bond would last a lifetime, a testament to the healing power of trust, courage, and the unbreakable connection between a child and the animal who refused to let her face her fears alone. If Emma's incredible courage and Bella's unwavering protection touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to Heart Animal Stories. Every subscription helps us share more amazing stories of therapy animals who give traumatized children the strength to find their voice and seek justice.